Hello everybody and welcome. Today's video is about a specific case, special case of the Lucena position with the H pawn or A pawn, and we'll examine it with the A pawn. So Lucena position, the king is in front of the pawn has already advanced to the 7th rank as we see here, and what makes this difficult is that the king is cut off and cannot come back into a game. With all the other pawns, of course, you have one other side to come out with the king, but here you don't. So this requires a specific situation where you can still win, and that situation is that the black king is cut off by 4 files, those 4 files. And then white is winning. If the king is closer, then it's a draw. So ideally, you don't want to necessarily get into this position in the first place. If you have an A pawn, you want to earlier try to not be cut off and have your rook block somehow checks from the side. But once you're here and you have cut off the king, you have managed to do this, it is winning. And what's the technique? We want to bring the rook to b8 so that we can push the rook on ba1 away and then bring the king out. Let's see how this works out in practice. Rook h2, king e7, rook h8. And here, black pretty much has 2 tries, king d7 or king d6. Let's first see king d7, rook b8, rook a1, and now the king comes out. King b7, check, king a6, check, king b6, and we can come to c5, and it's an easy win. So that's why a better try for black is to go king d6 in this position to not allow the white king to come out over c5. Now, same thing, rook b8, rook a1, king b7, rook b1, and now, like I said, king a6, that doesn't lead anywhere because we cannot escape the checks here, and here we cannot go forward because the pawn would be lost. So this doesn't work, but now that the king is on d6, we can actually go to c8. Rook c1 check, king to d8, only move that makes sense, and now rook to h1. Best try. Now we cannot queen, that would be terrible because of the checkmate threat. So we need to do something, and we should not go king e8 because then black gives 2 checks and suddenly picks up the pawn again. It's a draw. And also king c8 doesn't help because the rook comes back to c1. So what else can white do here? Try to figure out the right sequence now to win this. Alright, well, not too many other options left. Rook b6 check, but the important move to see here is after king c5, what we do now, because we don't queen, that would be once again a mistake. Black gives a check and then picks up the queen on a8. So we need to do something else. And that something is the move rook to c6 check. Notice that rook a6 also does not work because the rook is blocking also the king to escape via a6, and here the rook comes to a8 and black advances with the king and picks up the pawn. It's a draw. So here white can also go rook b1, that works as well, but I think rook c6 is the simplest. Now king takes c6, a8 queen wins immediately. And after king moves, after king b5, you can now go rook c8 because after check, the king can come back to b8 now. Black is out of checks and white queens and wins. And after king d5 in this position, now rook c8 wouldn't be too smart because of king d6, but now white can actually go rook a6, and this time the king can escape the checks via b6 and then b5, and white wins. So that's the winning strategy for white. Actually, there's one detail I want to add, one little good thing to know. If you are the defending side, you want to have your rook on the 3rd rank actually, and let me show you real quick why. So let's make a waiting move for white here, say like this, and I want to show you real quick why. I found this to be an interesting detail in this whole variation here, is that in this line that we just saw, here dum ba dum ba dum, that in this line you can now take the rook and you can still try to defend this endgame. And the rook has to be in h3 because it's the only square where you're not going to lose it right away. That being said, I'm not quite sure where the king has to go in this position, but white is not able to pick up the rook with checks right away, whereas on any other square, the rook can be picked up immediately. So that's kind of a needy little detail to know if you're defending, just in case put your rook on the third. All right, so that's it. That's all. Remember, what's important is that the king is cut off by 4 files, and then you want to bring the rook to b8, and then you have to be quite precise. The important sequence was to give a check here and then to give another check here. That was the important detail with the rook. Okay, let me know if you have any questions, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that in a short moment. I'll be happy to see you as one of my subscribers, and then I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.